If Tatum insisted on Brown staying, he would still be a Celtic. 2, Tatum stood by and watched as the Celtics tried to trade Jaylen Brown for Giannis while keeping Hugo and Baylor Shireman. Are you kidding me? Tatum stood by and watched as the Celtics dealt a 29-year-old Brown for a 36-year-old George. Yeah, I'm cool with that. How? Clearly downgrading their roster and their title hopes. 3, silence from the Tatum side. It's deafening right now. He has not gone on Brown's podcast. Kendrick Perkins has brought that up. And now that all this has happened, I'm kind of like, Perk, you had a point, dude. Tatum has said nothing about Brown publicly. Yo, man, he's my guy. We've been in the wars together. Not a peep. It's deafening, okay? The silence. The rise of Jaylen Brown clearly threatened Tatum's position as the franchise face in Boston. He didn't like it, in my opinion. And that's why the Celtics made this rushed, panicked move that might go down as the worst trade in Boston history, or one of them. It's one of the worst trades of the last 10 years in the NBA. I can tell you that, and I will die on that hill. Dwight Walton, come on in here. Did Tatum win a power struggle with Jaylen Brown?
Can I take a left turn on this question? I don't know if there was a power struggle. Now listen, should Jayson Tatum have stepped in? The day and age that we live in today, what normally happens now on social media or in any form, whether it be on a podcast, go on your own phone and make a video, put it out there to the masses how you don't want your partner in crime, Jaylen Brown, to be traded. Yes, in this day and age, I think Jayson Tatum was almost, he was supposed to do it, but he didn't do it. So it comes across as if Jayson Tatum was on board with what the Boston Celtics did yesterday in trading Jaylen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers. However, that's not the angle I'm taking. I don't think Jayson Tatum wanted to be involved in this whatsoever. I think this situation is very similar to what the new ownership in Dallas did to Nico Harrison, the former general manager of the Dallas Mavericks, basically mandating Nico Harrison to trade Luka Doncic. I think the new ownership of the Boston Celtics mandated Brad Stevens to make a move with Jaylen Brown, because Jaylen Brown is still under contract for the next 3 seasons for I think $190 million. He's due an extension next week at some point for a 2-year, $162 million extension. I don't think ownership wanted to give Jaylen Brown that extension, and I think Brad Stevens was under the gun, on the clock, if you will, to make a deal. So, power struggle between Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown? I don't think so. I just think there was a mandate for Brad Stevens to make a deal. And it's not going to make sense to anybody in Boston from a basketball standpoint. But if you just look at the specifics in terms of money, and the reality is that a lot of the owners are taking back their teams. They're not letting the league nor the players in their own organization take a stranglehold on their decisions. They're the ones making the decisions. And ultimately, I hate to say this, for as great a basketball player as all of us think Jaylen Brown is, ultimately, the Boston Celtics didn't think he was worth the money he's currently on right now, and definitely not the money he's going to be due over a 2-year extension. So regardless of power struggle, I think this was an organizational move by the owners to force general manager and president of basketball operations, Brad Stevens, to move Jaylen Brown. Should they have moved him last week? Of course. I can get into that later, but I just think this was ownership saying we ultimately don't think Jaylen Brown will live up to the amount of money that we're going to be obligated to pay him over the next 5 years. This was definitely an organizational decision rather than a power struggle between Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Ashley, we currently have a power struggle between me and Dwight. He sees it as organizational, as in the boardroom, which I do as well. But I also think there was a power struggle between Brown and Tatum. What says you?
So we don't know, right? I don't know if Jayson Tatum wanted Jaylen Brown out. I feel that Jayson is actually a very quiet kind of guy. I've interviewed him a couple times, and he's not the talkative type. So he's never usually the one to go on social media and air out his opinions on anything. So what would be any different for him not doing that now? So I don't want to come out and say, oh, Jayson Tatum wanted Jaylen Brown out. I also don't want to say that every organization does care about the feedback of their superstar players. I know how much LeBron loved playing with Anthony Davis. I don't think LeBron was in those discussions to get rid of Anthony Davis. I don't think he was given an opinion on that. So I can't say whether or not Jayson Tatum had a say in that. I don't know. Now, does it look bad from my standpoint? Yeah, I think you should be defending the one guy that you went to war with, that you won a championship with. Most guys, I think, would. Maybe Jayson Tatum didn't like what Jaylen Brown had to say about this being his favorite season, statistics-wise, and knowing that Jayson was hurt and couldn't play. But the fact that they got rid of Jaylen, and the fact that, according to sources, they thought, Derek White was the more efficient player, is just beyond comprehension to me. I mean, Jaylen, again, we've talked about this millions of times. He was a Finals MVP, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, won a championship, led the Boston Celtics to the number 2 seed in the East this season. And you're going to say that he's not worthy of a contract extension? And you're going to take a risk on a guy like Jayson Tatum, who's coming off of an injury? And we don't know if he's going to be back to 100%. Injuries take time. Yeah, he's taken most of this season off. But when he came back in the playoffs, he re-injured himself. I don't know how he's going to look next year. So I understand if this was a move from a contract standpoint of not wanting to pay both Jayson and Jaylen. Totally get that. But now there's all this other word being leaked out that, oh, we didn't believe in Jaylen. We didn't want to move forward with Jaylen. We didn't see the max contract in Jaylen. That's where I have a problem with this ownership. This is where I have a problem with this team. So I do think it could be a combination of both. We just don't know unless we talk to Jayson himself and say, hey, were you a part of these discussions? Or why didn't you speak up in defending Jaylen Brown? I can't assume that Jayson is the reason for this, or this was a power struggle. Because when they're on the court together, I think they play great together. And I don't see any type of power struggle. They each know when to get to their spots. They each know when it's their turn. I've never seen any issue on the court. So it's hard for me to believe off the court. I haven't seen any pictures or videos with them off the court either. So I don't know if they have even a relationship off the court. But what I know is on the court, they're able to keep it professional, play the game the right way. But to me, it's a combination of both ownership saying, hey, we're not paying this max contract. We need him out of here. And also it could be, Jayson being like, I don't care one way or another, but, maybe get him out of here. He's causing too much of a distraction. But I don't know. I'm not sure.
A lot of that language coming from the Celtics is for the people of Boston, right? Because a lot of them are just going to believe everything that, oh, man, he's not worth that. And just to kind of start the spin and frankly, the damage control. Let's move on to another topic here. And Ash, you're going to go first. Is Jaylen Brown Philly's new 1A? I'm going with the 1A flow here. I like the Batman Robin thing. The whole rest of the world does the 1A thing, so we'll do that. Is Jaylen Brown Philly's new 1A?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, who else would it be? I mean, yeah, you could take Joel Embiid, but he's been injured. He hasn't been consistent. Jaylen Brown has been pretty vocal in the point of like, hey, I want my own team. I want to be the leader of that team. And we've seen what Jaylen can do with Jayson Tatum out. Again, number 2 seed in the East. He's proven himself as the best two-way player in the league. Finals MVP. A lot of people don't think he deserves it, but he guards the other team's best player. This guy knows how to get to his shots. To me, he's a dog. And any team should be grateful to have a Jaylen Brown on their team. So do I think he's number 1? Yes. Because again, Joel Embiid's not healthy. never consistent. And Tyrese Maxey still has a couple things that he needs to work on, especially in crunch time when it comes to clutch basketball. I would take Jaylen Brown any day. So yes, Jaylen Brown is my Batman, 100%.
All right, Dwight. Do you agree with that? Is Jaylen Brown Philly's new 1A?
This will only be decided once Brown acclimatizes himself in the locker room. He needs to have a conversation with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. Embiid specifically, because there is beef between the two of them. He's already gone on Twitch talking about Joel Embiid being a great basketball player, but he's a flopper. And then, of course, you proceed to see the highlights behind the comments to where Joel Embiid is trying to squash it on the court. Jaylen doesn't want any part of it. Let's see if that spills over into the locker room. But Jaylen Brown obviously wants to be the alpha to everybody else, to whatever team he plays for. And now that's currently the Philadelphia 76ers. Jaylen Brown is joining Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. So to assume that Jaylen is going to be the number one, the alpha dog with the Sixers, that's a bad assumption, because that conversation needs to be had. The respect level that Jaylen Brown is going to bring to the Sixers locker room is that he is an Eastern Conference Finals MVP and he's an NBA Finals MVP. So he has that going for him as he gets into the Sixers locker room. But it's going to be something for Nick Nurse and that staff to play out. They're going to have to decide what happens here. So it's not going to be an easy transition, because Tyrese Maxey has the ball in his hands all the time. He's used to averaging 30 points per game, as is Joel Embiid. Now you've got three players on that roster. Of course, Joel Embiid has to be healthy, but you've got three players on that roster now who truly feel in their mind that they're the 1A, the alpha dog, the Batman to everybody else's Robin. So this is going to be a very interesting transition for Jaylen Brown. But Brown is going to be a very motivated player, especially when they play Boston. They get to play the Celtics 4 times a year. That's what also makes this trade I can't understand. But other than that, I just think there's going to have to be a conversation, because all three players are capable of not only averaging 30, but leading the NBA in scoring. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. But of course, Embiid has to be healthy. But right now, I'm proof positive in my mind that Jaylen Brown thinks that he's automatically the 1A in Philly. But that conversation needs to be had with two players that are already there in Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid.
Phenomenal